Chair calls to order legislative session day 21-007. Council, as you know, due to the ongoing health emergency, we are still meeting with a modified agenda. I would ask you to please join us in standing for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilman Beulah.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your many and abundant blessings and for keeping us safe during these challenging times. Thank you for the courage to fulfill our calling and serve in ways that honor you. We pray for your wisdom and guidance that we may make decisions that glorify and honor you. I pray for my colleagues, other elected officials, law enforcement, EMS personnel, volunteer firefighters, medical personnel, the veterans serving our countries, and a special blessing on our parents, students, and educators as we move towards in-person learning in our schools. Please continue to bless Harford County and our country. Thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do. These blessings we humbly ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Beulah. Council, may I have general consent to move to item 5A on the agenda and then back to 4A thereafter? Thank you. At the completion of 4A, we'll resume to agenda 5B. Consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. Council appointment, Harford County Cultural Arts Board, Living Treasure nomination, Carol Morrow. May I have a motion to approve Carol Morrow, please?
Council President.
Mr. Schroeds.
Council President, I make a motion to approve the Cultural Arts Board's nomination of a Harford Living Treasure as Carol Morrow.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. It's been moved and seconded to approve Ms. Morrow as a Harford County Cultural Arts Board Living Treasure. Any comments? I see Mr. Morrow is with us. Ms. Morrow is with us too. Very nice.
I'm right here. Thank you.
Ms. Dixon, call the roll.
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Schroeds,
Aye.
Mr. Wagner,
Aye.
Mr. Beulah.
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative and 0 in the negative, the appointment of Carol Morrow as a Harford Living Treasure is hereby approved. Presentation of proclamations. Harford Living Treasure, Carol Morrow. Ms. Morrow, welcome. We welcome you and your family. Councilmember Schroeds, or excuse me, Councilmember Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President, Council. Ms. Morrow, thank you for joining us tonight. Glad you could get on here with us. So whereas Carol Morrow received the Harford County Cultural Arts Board recommendation to the Harford County Council for recommendation as Harford Living Treasure. And whereas Ms. Morrow graduated from Towson State Teachers College in 1961, married her husband in 1972, and had a son 6 years later. In 1977, she bought her own land and built a house for her family. And Carol taught public school students for over 50 years and served on numerous committees and boards, local community councils, church groups. She helped many families through her membership in Jarrettsville's Lions Club and Bethel Church as the Mason-Dixon Community Service Liaison. While serving on the Jarrettsville's Friends of the Harford County Public Library, Carol assisted with the feasibility study to build the Jarrettsville Library. She also served on the Harford County Jarrettsville-Norrisville Community Council, was a member and president of the Jarrettsville Book Lovers Club, and a Garden Club member, to name a few. And whereas Ms. Morrow received the Lion of the Year award from 2017 to 2018 and received the Melvin Jones Fellowship Award in 2019. Her hard work for the citizens of Harford County is greatly appreciated. Now therefore, we, the County Council of Harford County, Maryland, on this 16th day of February, 2021, do hereby proclaim Carol Morrow a Harford living treasure.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you, Council President. Well done, Councilman Woods. Carol, congratulations.
Thanks.
It's great seeing you. It's
Thank
been a
you.
little while with COVID.
Well, this is the first time I've ever actually been seen on, what is this called?
We'll call it Zoom.
Zoom. I usually just do it by phone.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so shocked.
Well, this is something I've been working on with a long time with your family to try to get you nominated. There's a lot of information that's involved with the process going through the Cultural Arts Board, but here we are today. And, you know, you've been a dear friend for a long, long time. And, you know, I don't know how many years we go back. I know I've known Rob for forever as well. But, you know, getting to know you through the Jarrettsville Lions Club, it's been, you know, it's been terrific. And I've gotten to get to know you and to see your involvement and, you know, what you're doing for our community. And, you know, you're involved with so much, and you can talk about it a little bit as well after I'm done. But, you know, what I see as a Jarrettsville Lions Club member is that you're doing it all. You know, you're the one that's in charge of collecting the eyeglasses. You're the liaison not only for the Jarrettsville Lions Club, but also Bethel Church and the AARP for collecting all the food donations for Mason-Dixon Community Services. You know, it just goes on and on and on. You know, I think the Jarrettsville Book Lovers Club is probably one of the oldest ones around. I know it's over 100 years old or something like that.
I've been 7.
And, you know, you're just everywhere. You're doing so much, and we appreciate it. You really have made a real difference in the lives of so many people in Harford County. And it's with that we have this proclamation. I hope to catch up with you at a later date, you know, maybe at a Lions Club event, or perhaps Council President and I maybe will come visit you somehow during these different times that we're in, but we'll figure it out. But, you know, just thank you for being you. You are truly a Harford living treasure. I know that you're going to enjoy the oral history that's going to be conducted by Doug Washburn and stored in the Harford County Public Libraries forever. So future generations of Robs can, you know, see this down the road and say, hey, that was my great grandmom, and this is what she did in Harford County. And I know it's going to turn out nice. So with that, turn it over to you for a couple comments, right?
Yeah, council, anyone else want to make any comments before Ms. Morrow? All right, seeing none, Ms. Morrow, would you like to say something?
Yes, well, I thank you very, very much. And I thought several months ago that Celia had a project at school to write a biography, and she interviewed me, and now I know that wasn't a school project, right, Celia? She really fooled me. I thought this was for her English project over at North Hartford, Hereford. I really have enjoyed all the things that I do in Jarrettsville and in Harford County, whether it be the library or Mason-Dixon. I was up there today with 700 pounds of food from Bethel Church, and the people are wonderful. It's a two-way street. It's not only what I can do for other people, but what those people do for me. And I have a family sitting here who really fooled me, who really did.
Right.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all of your work that you do for Harford County.
Right.
Well, again, we want to thank you for all the good work and service that you do for others. And at this time, we want to congratulate you. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before you signed on at our last Jarrettsville Lions Club meeting, I did let all of them know, but I had to be sure you weren't signed on yet to let
Oh,
our
it's
members know. So they do know. Congratulations.
Now I know why I couldn't get on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Agenda item number 5, consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. Executive appointment, local management board. May I have a motion? Mr. Woods. Thank you. May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Schroeds. It's moved and seconded to approve Dr. Bashai to the local management board. Any discussion, council? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Schroeds,
Aye.
Mr. Wagner,
Aye.
Mr. Beulah.
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative and 0 in the negative, the appointment is hereby approved. At this time, council will now act as the zoning board of appeals and return back to the legislative session thereafter. Case number 5927, Deborah Schubert. On February the 9th, we heard final argument in this case. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Woods.
move to uphold the zoning hearing examiner's decision on case number 5927.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Schroeds. It's moved and seconded to uphold the decision recommended by the zoning hearing examiner. Is there any discussion, council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Woods.
I know we had a lot of discussion about it, but these are always very complicated because of the law is very narrow in those areas. And even though it's a small sliver of land, the law is what it is. And we're bound by that, unfortunately. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Dixon.
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Both.
Aye.
Mr. Schroeds,
Aye.
Mr. Wagner,
Aye.
Mr. Beulah.
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the decision to uphold the zoning hearing examiner's decision is approved. Special presentations, COVID-19 and vaccination update. Dr. Bashai. Good evening, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
County Council President Vincenti and members of the County Council, I wanted to report on the latest trends in COVID-19 in the county and our efforts to control it. We have been making some progress. As of today, the test positivity rate is 5.4%, which is an improvement of 12% lower than a week ago. And the cases per 100,000 is down to 17 per 100,000, down from 19 a week ago. So this is good news, but we're still in the red zone. These numbers are high enough to start a 4th wave of COVID. We've had 3 waves so far, and enough of us are still susceptible that we cannot let our guard down. We have to make the right choices here. We have to stay vigilant. This week, the CDC released guidelines for reopening schools, and these guidelines ask for multiple layers of protection. The Harford County Public School guidelines for reopening put into practice what the CDC is asking us to do. It is many things that will help us keep our schools open. We have to get our mask wearing rate up above 90% in every single classroom and keep it up, but we have to do the same in the community. We have to get our social distancing above 6 feet everywhere, not just in the classrooms, but in all of Harford County. We have to refrain from indoor social gatherings. We have to ask other people to follow our good example And that is the way we're going to keep our schools open. And if there is a fourth wave, it's all back to square one again for us. And we just can't let down our guard. It's hard work, but our current rates are reflecting our hard work, and we're getting the credit we deserve. The vaccination situation will be discussed in detail by Marcy Austin. I'm happy to report that 6,000 people over 75 have been vaccinated in the county. That means that's about 33% of our 75 and up population has now been vaccinated. We still have another 6,000 that have pre-registered and are waiting for vaccines. 5,000 seniors over 75 have neither been vaccinated nor registered, and that is really what I want to call our attention to. 5,000 of our fellow citizens have not been able to have their adult children, their nephews and nieces, get them onto the registration sites, and they have not yet been vaccinated. They need our help. I'm asking everybody in the county who knows an Aunt Bertha, somebody that may not have gotten their registration, call Aunt Bertha and say, can I help you register for a vaccine? Shortages are a problem, but I'm hopeful that we will be able to get to our over 75 population by the end of March and move on to the 65 to 74. We have been flatlined on our allocation. The state has decided to grow vaccines elsewhere and keep the health department flat at 1,400 doses per 7 days. We're going to stay at that level for the next 7 days. Growth in vaccine availability will be happening at the mass vaccine centers and at the private venues. And I have news that there will be many new private pharmacies opening COVID vaccination clinics all around the county. Those private pharmacies are very difficult for senior citizens to navigate, requires multiple attempts to go and click. We need to help our senior citizens get vaccinated both at the county health department site and at private venues and at the mass vaccine center. So it's going to take all of us to work together to protect our most vulnerable population. Our elementary school teachers in the public schools are almost all covered. We're getting a list of the private school teachers and manually putting them in our registration site just in case they haven't managed to find their own way onto our site. So I'm hoping we can get a large majority of our school teaching and staff populations covered soon. I will turn it over to Marcy Austin at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Bashai. Good evening, Council President Vincenti and members of the Council. Here's some updates on our vaccination efforts. So we will continue using Patterson Mill High School and the McFall Activity Center as our vaccination sites through March 12th. And then we will move to Mountain Christian Church and Mountain Road, and the Center for Educational Opportunity in Aberdeen, beginning March 16th. On Friday, February 12th, the Health Department was given notice by the state that we will receive an allocation of 1,400 first doses and 1,300 second doses. This is considered to be week 10 of allocations. So based on the federal 2-week look-ahead projection given to Maryland, the state will allocate the projected 1,400 first doses for week 10 and week 11. The state anticipates allocating the same number of doses for week 12 and week 13, but they reserve the right to make changes based on what the federal administration provides Maryland. Also, because we had been rearranging some of our clinics due to weather, we are advising folks that per CDC guidelines, it is okay to get the vaccine up to 4 days before your second dose vaccination due date or up to 6 weeks after the first dose. Here are the vaccine clinic timelines for this week and next. During the week of February 16th through the 19th, which is this week, we will have 6 vaccination clinics, and we will continue vaccinating those who need their second doses, some from Group 1B and the remaining Group 1As. It is projected that we will administer 1,497 first doses and 2,067 second doses this week. During the week of February 22nd through the 26th, we are scheduled to have 5 vaccination clinics, and we will continue vaccinating those who need their second dose, the groups from 1B and the remaining Group 1As. It is projected that we will administer 351 first doses and 2,701 second doses next week, but appointment times are still available and we're still scheduling those appointments. So it should be a little larger than that. As of today, the health department has received a total of 12,780 first doses and 8,400 second doses, and we have administered a total of 10,046 first doses and 3,447 second doses of the COVID vaccine. We currently have about 32,000 individual citizens pre-registered. We continue to get calls and emails from citizens asking when they will get their vaccines. It's difficult for people to understand the shortage of supplies we are facing. As usual, we continue to advocate for more allotments of vaccines each week so that we can get all of our citizens vaccinated. And we again ask for and thank everyone for their patience during this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. And let me thank you for your assistance in helping me with the calls that I get from our senior citizens, making sure they're on the registration. So thank you for that. And then in reference to advocating for more vaccines, Dr. Bashai, did we hear back from Mr. Schrader in reference to the letter we sent last week?
Yes, Mr. Schrader's office wrote back that they are taking our letter under consideration, and they'll get back to us if they are going to move ahead with a mass vaccination site in our county.
Awesome, but no timeline?
No timeline.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions for Dr. Bashai or Marcy? All right, seeing none, I want to thank you both for all that you do on a daily basis, and we'll be in touch again tomorrow, I'm sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of minutes, zoning appeal case 5927, Deborah Schubert, legislative day 21-006, February 9th, 2021. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There being no corrections, the minutes stand approved. Mr. Woods, please read in resolution 00621 and 00721 into the record for introduction, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolution 006-21, authorization housing HUD grant 2021, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the county executive. A resolution authorizing the filing of all grant applications with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development of Harford County, Maryland, for grant assistance under any of its programs and authorizing the receipt of these funds. Resolution 007-21, authorization transit MTA grant application, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the county executive. A resolution authorizing the county executive to file an application with the Maryland Transit Administration of the Maryland Department of Transportation for SSTAP, State Special Transportation Assistance Program, in sections 5303, 5304, 5305, 5307, 5309, 5310, 5311, 5316, 5317, 5318, formula and discretionary operating and capital grant programs under the Federal Transit Act during the fiscal year.
So happy to answer any questions that you may have about either one of the resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Council, any questions for Mr. Parrish? Seeing none, thank you, Len.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll consider these in a future meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Business from the president, I'm gonna try to be brief. Just a reminder that council is receiving letters of intent to fill the Board of Ed vacancy up until February the 26th at 5 p.m. Today, Ms. Harris and I had the opportunity to tour Joppatown High School, the renovation project going on there, which is rather extensive. We toured with Dr. Bolson, Mr. Brown, Mr. Morton, and Ms. Ziegler, the principal there. Just like I said, it's just a very, very vast renovation going on there from A to Z with several of the P-TECH programs, commercial kitchens and food labs. I think, Mr. Johnson, you spoke to the floor, which was down a few steps, how they had to elevate that. We actually got to see that today. The whole planning process just overwhelms me sometimes. To be able to look at a project like that and have everything in place when you go to start the first piece of equipment, know where you're going, to be able to move things around, move the media center from one area of the school to a gym and set it up there so they could renovate other areas of the school, to move in a portable boiler so they could still have steam and hot water and everything else to create heat in the school while they were renovating and moving the other facility. So it's just a large, large undertaking. I think 28 million plus. And then the most important thing of all is in my conversations with the county executive, he is absolutely opening up the county buildings starting on March 1st. And with that, I had discussions today with all of you so that we could set our first in-person meeting date as of March the 2nd. Council will be meeting with a limited capacity. The first meeting or two will be no public in the chambers. We will continue to take calls to hear from our citizens, and we will move on from there. So with that, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. Oh crap! I want to give a shout out to Miss Joe Ferrara for stealing some pictures off of our Facebook page and from over the summertime, July to be in fact. So I'm gonna give her a shout out because those pictures were during my my anniversary week when businesses were open at 50% capacity. But I guess I'm not supposed to support local businesses during this pandemic, especially when the positivity rate was hovering around 3%. So but look, I'm not upset that she posted something that was clearly misleading. I'm not upset about that. But what I am upset about is that my wife was absolutely right. Light-skinned Black folks do get ashy skin during the summertime, and I definitely need to work on my my moisturizing game because my legs were ashy when I was taking a pedicure. So I just want to note that. But look, I was definitely masked up. We had an appointment. We were the only customers there, and for the first time ever, I got a pedicure. And let me tell you something, gentlemen. It was absolutely amazing. I don't know if you ever got a pedicure, but it was my first time ever, and it was absolutely amazing. But it's a little disingenuous for Miss Ferrer to have posted that stuff and that it was misleading because just weeks after that, I was the only council member, from my understanding, I was the only council member welcoming students back to school when the learning centers were finally open. The first day of school, I was the only council member that was there welcoming kids at Magnolia Middle and the schools in my district. So it was a little misleading. So I'm not sure why Ms. Ferrer was being so misleading with her post about me. I guess it was earlier today or whatever. But let me be clear on one thing. I have never pushed a COVID fear ever about keeping schools closed. Not once. I have only pushed science and keeping kids and families safe. I side with educators. because I side with science and the CDC. That's it. But because we're, we disagree with one another, there's no need for us to tear each other down. We all have opinions about this school reopening, but yet the council has no bearing on opening schools at all. So I'm sorry. I was told today that I was being hypocritical because the nail tech at the the parlor or whatever it was less than 6 feet away from me. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely plexiglass between us, and they had all the protocols in place. The other complaint was that the nail tech was actually touching me. Well, yeah, with gloves on her hands. So, and then if she didn't have gloves on her hand, then it would have definitely been nasty, even if it wasn't a pandemic. So, if it wasn't, it looks like to me that, folks are looking for that I gotcha moment. And I'm sorry, I just walk it like I talk it. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell folks. And finally, this is the one thing, Council President, is that people can talk a lot of stuff about me all day long, and I have broad shoulders, and I don't care. In this political game, we're gonna get hits left and right, and I don't care about that. But when the dog whistles come about my community and about my district, that's not gonna fly with me. Joppatown has a Homeland Security program, has a P-TECH program. Edgewood has the Academy of Finance and an International Baccalaureate program. And my kids down here are doing amazing jobs. So don't sit up here and tell me that, these dog whistles like my kids down here need to be in school because they're out there doing stuff or they're not learning or they're incapable of learning. My kids are doing great stuff down there in my community. So the dog whistles and all that stuff have got to go. So thank you very much, Council President, and I'll yield my time back.
You're too much tonight, Mr. Johnson, but I appreciate your comments. We'll
Thank
talk
you,
again
Council President.
about the pedicure, all right?
I sure will.
Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am so glad I didn't give him his Valentine's gift as the pedicure this year. Yeah, next year, I promise. Want to thank everyone that's with this weather that went through. Had a lot of calls come through of people thanking our DPW, and they did a phenomenal job. I mean, between the ice event and snow, our roads were incredible this go round. So as always, Harford County does a great job with that. And of course, if you didn't notice, everyone got a phone call from Rick Ayers this time. And a lot of people were shocked to hear him. So it's good to hear him again. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Giangiordano.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening. First of all, I want to let everybody know one of the things that we've been doing for over a year in my office of about 10 people is that every Wednesday we buy lunch at a local restaurant. It fosters camaraderie, the staff loves it, but it also provides income to restaurants. So if people are out there not sure what to do, if they don't want to go out, they don't want to do that, and if they're a business or buy takeout, bring it back. The restaurants certainly appreciate it. A lot of them I talked to are down about 60%, so any little bit helps. With that, I also see that on Friday, there was a recommendation from the CDC that says strong evidence in-person schooling can be done safely. So they've come out, said that, there's a roadmap for opening schools in the middle of a pandemic. It emphasizes wearing masks, social distancing, and saying vaccination in teachers is important, but not a prerequisite for reopening. So they finally announced their long-awaited study on that. They've said evidence is strong, that in-person schooling can be done safely, especially at lower grade levels, and in guidance is targeted at schools that teach kindergarten to the 12th grade. With that, if you look at our confirmed cases, the 0 to 9 is 3%, 10 to 19 is 9%. So definitely they are lower. Positivity rate from last week was 5.8. It's dropped to 5.4. And I think the other thing that the CDC said is that in-person, and I quote, in-person learning has not been identified as a substantial driver of coronavirus spread in the U.S., and that transmission among students is now considered relatively rare. CDC also stressed that the safest way to open schools is by making sure there's a little disease in community as possible. The agency urged local officials to assess whether a bad outbreak is occurring in community when making decisions. So I think we're on the right track. I think the CDC also said what a lot of parents were looking to hear. So hopefully we get the schools back to more than 1 day, 2 days, and we get them back to 5 days of in-person learning. And I hope everybody stays safe, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Mr. Schroeds.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Council President. I wanted to congratulate the Hartford Land Trust. There hasn't been a lot of press on this, but that the Land Trust, along with the Department of Natural Resources, the Conservation Fund, and Aberdeen Proving Ground, they worked for over 2.5 years to try to preserve a piece of property, and that is the 905 acres, part of the Stony Forest area in Aberdeen. So the southern middle part of our county that actually joins other land that's known as the Stony Demonstration State Forest, and that's also owned by the Department of Natural Resources. So just wanted to hats off to them. I know that they also preserved the Griffith Davis parcel down in Oakington Peninsula and Havre de Grace more recently, and it's just been a great year for them. And congratulations to the Land Trust, the members, and also the other organizations that were involved with that. You know, and also the wildlife and the other habitat. Sadly, I want to express my condolences to 2 friends of mine. These are unrelated passings, but the first one's David Canatella, known as Pudge, from the Fallston area, and also Perry Bobby Dennison. They both passed away recently, unexpectedly, and you know, both loved by many, many people. And just wanted to express my condolences to them. To dovetail on what Councilman Wood said earlier, thanks to all the DPW workers and first responders for working during the inclement weather that we've had, but we're not quite out of the woods yet. We have a storm coming Wednesday into Thursday this week. So everyone be safe. This may potentially be even an ice event. So just want everybody to be careful out there. And with that, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schroeds. Mr. Wagner.
The only thing I have this evening is just to announce that we did have a very constructive meeting this morning, working through how to make some changes to the solar bill that we heard last week, and that I do expect to have something in front of you by our first meeting in March. And hopefully it'll be something, as soon as we got it all together, I'll share it with everyone there, and hopefully we can all support it and move ahead on that initiative. The county executive did allow some of his staff members to meet with us, and I appreciate that, and I hope it's the start of what might be a better working relationship to try to construct legislation in the future that it works better when we all work together. So I want to thank him for that, and thank those members that were there this morning, as well as the council members that were in attendance as well. So with that, I'll say good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Mr. Beulah.
Thank you, Council President. I have several comments tonight. First, in honor of Black History Month, I'd like to talk a little bit about Sergeant Alfred B. Hilton. Sergeant Alfred B. Hilton was born in 1842 in the Hopewell area of Harford County, now called Level. He was the son of Isaac and Harriet Hilton, free citizens who formerly had been slaves in Harford County. Mr. Hilton enlisted in the 4th Regiment United States Colored Troops in August of 1863 during the Civil War and was quickly promoted to sergeant. He faithfully served the United States in various military capacities, bravely fought in defense of the Union in numerous battles against Southern forces. In May of 1864, Sergeant Hilton was appointed color sergeant and was tasked with carrying the national flag for his regiment. Sergeant Hilton was wounded while serving as national color bearer with the 4th Regiment United States Colored Troops during the Battle of New Market Heights in Virginia. He died on October 21st, 1864, from the wounds he sustained in the battle and is buried at Hampton National Cemetery in Virginia. On November 9th, 1927, the Maryland State Highway Administration dedicated the I-95 bridge overpass at Maryland Route 22 as Sergeant Alfred B. Hilton Memorial Bridge. In 2018, the Sergeant Alfred B. Hilton Memorial Fund became a nonprofit 501c3 organization. The Sergeant Alfred B. Hilton Memorial Committee will be breaking ground in Tidings Park in Havre de Grace in the spring of 2021 on a memorial to honor Sergeant Alfred B. Hilton, Harford County's only Medal of Honor recipient. Next, Miss Christy Crawford Smith, President of the HCEA. Regarding your comments during the last council meeting on February 9th, 2021, if you want to support a council member, you can do so without insulting the rest of us. For example, you could say, Councilman Andre Johnson, the HCEA thanks you for responding to teachers' phone calls. But for you to suggest in your comments that Councilman Johnson is the only one that responds to teachers' phone calls could not be further from the truth. I believe this was just political posturing on your part. Normally, I don't respond to insults, but my legislative aide, Lydia Brennan, and I take great pride in responding to every email and phone call that is directed towards my office, not just those in my district. I have talked to many educators and parents that did not even expect a response. Anyone that wants to contact me can contact my office, speak with my legislative aide, and she will get in touch with me immediately. And I usually respond to most calls within 24 hours. You may want to remember that several councilmen have supported HCEA in the past on a number of issues. That may serve you well, because you want to, I would say, you want to look at what we have done for you rather than what have we done for you lately. Next, give me a second here, I got to get all my comments together here. Next, I would like to thank all the educators in Harford County for continuing to do their job to the best of their ability during these difficult times. None of us were prepared for the events of the last year and the challenges it would bring to us all. I know many of you have had to work long hours preparing your lesson plans to make virtual learning as effective as possible, while trying to teach students in person at the same time. I feel that we have an amazing, dedicated group of educators in Harford County, and I personally appreciate you. Again, thank you for doing your job in these difficult times, doing the best you can. And let me also say that it's an honor and a blessing to me to represent the parents, the grandparents, the children, and all those who have called in to the council office, spoken at the council office, sent emails on behalf of our children to return to in-person learning in a healthy and safe environment. In my opinion, you have shown tremendous patience. And I'm not sure I could have done the same if I were in your shoes. I have 10 grandchildren, last 5 are girls. 9 of them live out of state, and pretty much all of them have returned to some form of in-person learning. And I just want to let you know that I will continue to lobby on your behalf until this issue is resolved, because common sense tells me that we are harming our children. And this must stop sooner rather than later. Our children are our future, and we must educate, protect, and guide them to the best of our ability. And I too want nothing more than to get our children back to in-person learning in a safe and healthy environment. And I have not spoken to one educator or one parent that doesn't want the same. We may have disagreements as far as the science and the best way to do that, but in my opinion, we need to really come together as a group and focus on getting our children back to in-person learning as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Beulah. Comments and input from attending citizens. Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, Mr. President, we have 18 this evening.
All right, with 18 speakers, again, I'm going to remind you that we have a 3-minute timeline, and we are going to adhere to that as closely as possible. And with that, our first caller, please.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. Stephen Hill, 1411 Emily Court West, Abington.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, President Vincenti, members of the council. I'm here again to speak on behalf of reopening ACPR gymnastics. While I still feel that ACPR should have long since been allowed to reopen its doors, I'm now committed to simply ensuring that ACPR reopens on Monday, March 1st, as noted in the county executive phased approach. Our head coach, Steve Cornelison, has submitted his plan to the Department of Parks and Rec. This is a very similar plan to the one that was approved prior to the county when the gym originally reopened in July of 2020. The Department of Parks and Rec has reached out to Coach Steve with a few clarifying questions. He's been very responsive in addressing these inquiries. In an email I received this morning from Director of Parks and Rec, Kathy Burley, she informed me that, and I quote, "We expect this process to be completed by the end of this week. Since this plan is very similar to the previous approved plan, there is no intention on our part not to approve it. I ask that our advocates here on the County Council stay close to this process and help us ensure that nothing comes out of the blue to disrupt or distract from the current plans to reopen. This should be as straightforward as it seems, especially since this plan was approved prior, and Ms. Burley herself is sharing her intention to approve. Please help us keep this on track. I would love to be speaking on this call on March 2nd, thanking you all again for your support in helping to make this happen and getting our girls back training in their own gym. Appreciate your time and support. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. My daughter's the one who signed up to speak tonight, and I'm on my way to pick her up from gymnastics practice. Is it possible? Or can I read her speech that she wrote?
I'll call you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Michael Curry, 1409 Bassett Court, Bel Air, Maryland, 21014.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, President Vincente, members of the council. I actually prepared this, what I thought was interesting speech about different thoughts of decision-making processes, but that kind of went out the window by some of the comments this evening. Mr. Johnson, wow, thank you. If you weren't taking heat before, you're definitely going to take it now, but thank you for standing up and saying what a lot of people have needed to hear. Thank you, sir. Mr. Beulah, as a teacher and an educator, thank you for your conversations, and thank you for acknowledging and recognizing the efforts of teachers and our desire to get back in the classrooms as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. But wow, again, thank you for saying that. Just in briefly, one of the points that I did want to make is thank you to you, Mr. Vincente, and the council for sending the letter to the governor to try and get a mass vaccine site opened up to get more vaccines in the Harford County. Thank you, but we do need more. Right now, hundreds of educators are scrambling on our own to find vaccines at the last second to help keep our kids, our students, and our fellow educators safe. You cannot make the decision to open up the schools, but you are the Board of Health. You can create the parameters for safety equipment and protocols that can create the safest environment for our kids, our communities, and yes, our educators and staff. Be the Board of Health. None of you can tell any of us what will or won't happen when school reopens. But as the Board of Health, you have a big part in deciding the conditions that will determine how long we stay open. Thank you, gentlemen. Good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening. This is Julie Williams from Abington, Maryland.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Experts from the state level all the way to the World Health Organization agree that the opening of schools does not pose a significant increase in COVID transmission, and that continued school closures actually cost more lives than leaving them open. Regarding children's mental health, we are seeing spikes in depression, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and death as a result of these extended closures. Suicide was already the #2 cause of death among young people ages 10 to 24. Clark County, Nevada, for example, has had to create an early warning system to monitor students' mental health episodes. That system has already sent over 3,000 alerts to be investigated, including one student who was found trying to hang himself after searching how to make a noose on his school iPad. 18 Clark County students have taken their life so far this school year, more than double compared to the year before. One 9-year-old student wrote in his suicide note that he has nothing to look forward to. Again, he was 9 years old. On October 20th, Michael Moronic Jr., a 14-year-old Baltimore County student, took his own life after his hopeless state of isolation caused him to give up. How is this acceptable for our Harford County children? Don't children's lives matter? These school closures have already had a significant impact on our children's education. While teachers have done an incredible job providing instruction to the best of their ability in this ever-changing and unpredictable environment, most teachers would agree that nothing can replace in-person instruction. Teachers constantly get ghosted during virtual instruction. They spend valuable time troubleshooting technical issues, and they're faced with privacy violations, such as being video recorded and posted to social media while attempting to deliver their virtual instruction. Teachers have truly been incredibly inspirational with their flexibility, ingenuity, and engagement strategies. Despite all of these efforts, one study reports an estimated 3 to 12-month loss of learning that has occurred due to the school closures. This loss of learning widens the gap between our children in lower socioeconomic households. In District A, where I live, we have more Title I schools than any other district in the county, meaning the school closures have created even more of a disparity in Councilman Johnson's district than any other district in the county. Is that fair that students who can afford private schools or private tutors have been able to keep up, but students who don't have access to these resources are falling 3 to 12 months behind? In
Ma'am,
any
please bring
other
your comments to a
circumstance,
close.
what's that?
Please bring your comments to a close, ma'am.
Okay. In any other circumstance, the lack of equality between the haves and the have-nots would be completely unacceptable.
Thank you,
Andre
ma'am.
Johnson, your bio states hello.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Rachel Kozel. I live in 1106 Emerald Drive, Bel Air, Maryland.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Thank you, sir, and members of the council. Today marked the 100th day of school in HCPS. 100 days, and yet most of our children have been inside of school building less than 5 days this year, if at all. These same children missed the last 3 months of last year. On January 21st, 2021, Governor Hogan, along with Dr. Salmon, adjusted the state guidance to reopen schools to in-person learning. The fact that this caught our system so off guard is appalling. How has this not been the end goal since the pandemic began? Children back in school, 5 days a week, with their teachers, without devices. As my husband was always saying, it was easy to shut down, but close to impossible to open back up. Tonight, I will speak for my children. I have a first grader, 6 years old, and a preschooler, 4 years old. Both my children attended summer camp in 2020, wearing masks, social distancing without incident. My youngest currently attends preschool in person, wearing a mask, and has not had any COVID incidents since the fall. My 6-year-old sees her younger sister going to school. This is devastating for her. She is falling apart and losing herself in front of my eyes on a daily basis. Tonight, I will speak for the children in our community, those struggling with virtual learning, those whose mental well-being is in shambles, those in dangerous and abusive situations, those who need their teachers and school administrators to be their first line of defense in child abuse cases. They are stuck on a computer, and observations such as this cannot be made in a virtual environment. Those struggling with anxiety, depression, monumental stress, substance abuse, especially to those who are losing hope. Please do not. Tonight, I will speak for the parents in our community, those struggling with working from home while also navigating their children through virtual. those watching their children's mental health deteriorate before their eyes, those who know their children need them more than ever, but have no choice but to put their children on hold and their work first to make ends meet for their family. Tonight, I will speak for the teachers and administrators in our community, those who have supported getting the children back to school, those who are fearful to say what they think for concern of potential serious repercussions. Our teachers would be teaching both in person in a school building and virtual to the remaining students at home simultaneously. This is not sustainable. Tonight, I will also speak to those who want to remain virtual. There are both teachers and students who, for legitimate mental reasons, need this option. It should be an option. They should be able to choose virtual if needed. Those teachers should be paired with those children. Have the majority of
Please
teachers
bring your
teaching
comments to a
person.
close, ma'am.
Please look at the Central Bucks County reopening plan. You can either go to school in person 5 days a week or remain virtual.
Thank
Thank
ma'am.
you. Hello, Tricia speaking.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Tricia Payne, 3800 Rush Road, Jarrettville.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the council for hearing our pleas over the last couple of months to reopen ACPR. The girls have really, and the parents have all really joined together, and we appreciate all the support from the council to have it open on March 1st. Thank you for the late nights and hearing our pleas and meeting with us to decide to put pressure and get an answer on when we can open. And moving forward, I just ask that if there's any change in the date, if you could please keep the pleas of the girls and the parents and the community in mind, and make sure that we can continue to open on the date that's been stated of March 1st and not have any more undue delay. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you again, and thank you to Councilman Schroeder for reaching out to me tonight as well to talk about this plea. So that is all I have to say. I'll keep it short.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello,
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
my name is Laura Sedicus. My address is 2541 Shores Landing Road, Darlington, Maryland.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Thank you for allowing me to speak again tonight. I would like to thank you for your continued hard work getting our children back into the classrooms. It's imperative that all of our children return to school 5 days a week. The public health community, including the CDC, has reached the consensus that schools should reopen. Councilman Johnson, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed your pedicure. Don't worry, here on my insufficient internet service, your legs look supple and hydrated. We can't load HD images quickly, much less video. I'm even more glad to hear that you side with science and the CDC. As I'm sure you're aware, the CDC recommends that schools reopen. And I'm glad to hear that your children are doing so well. My child is also doing well academically. That's a credit to his wonderful teachers, amazing principal, and dedicated support staff. Unfortunately, socially and emotionally, he is struggling. It's small, subtle changes. He's quick to anger now. He says things like, I hate my life, or everything sucks. Things you'd almost expect from a teenager, except that he's 8. And that is a large part in credit to the remaining closure of our schools. My son needs to be back in school 5 days a week with his class and his teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Ella Mori and 229 Lapidum Road, Havre de Grace.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Good evening, County Council members and listening citizens. My name is Ella Mori. I am 13 years old and I attend gymnastics classes at ACPR Gymnastics. This time last year, I was incredibly determined to get on the Excel team there. I was learning the required skills when ACPR was forced to shut down due to COVID-19. This was a huge disappointment, but understandable given the lack of information we had about the virus. In July, the gym was allowed to reopen. My mother at the time was 6 months pregnant and very nervous about the virus. When the gym reopened, she let me go due to all the protocols in place. She was genuinely impressed with how seriously they were taking precautions, and the gymnasts and coaches remained safe. Again in November, the gym closed just as I was about to try to join the team. I have been waiting for a long time, and I sincerely hope you can reopen the gym. Gymnastics is not a sport that will wait for you. You must be consistent, and you can only move forward with the right equipment. Every week matters. To move forward and achieve your goals in the sport, you must have dedication. But even the most dedicated can't make progress without proper equipment and coaching. Recently, I have contemplated going to a different gym since other gyms in the state are open. However, ACPR is where I've been going since I was 5 years old. It almost feels like a home to me. I should not have to leave my gym just to do what I love. Other gyms in the state are open because the science says it is safe to reopen. Please, please help us to get our gym back open as soon as possible. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Ella.
Hello,
Good evening, sir. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
my name is David Farrar, 2000 Garden. Thank you, Mr. Beulah, for your courage. Most of my comments are not directed toward you. For the rest of you, this may be a bit of a bumpy ride. I think I'm done with the pleasantries. Some of you have made statements to us that you support our cause and fight, then cower to your council peers, the Board of Education, Teachers Union, and the health directors. After months of testimony and hard work, investigation, researching, and compiling the information for you by us, the regular citizens of the Harford County, you made one effort, yes, one effort to confront those people and ask real questions. Then the following week, you backpedaled and cowered again. You have even stated to us that some information you can't even get. So, and as well, you have said that you can get information that is not released or provided to the general public. What? We, the people, are being denied information? I mean, this information isn't about national security, UFOs, and alien existence. No, it's about our health, our communities, our families, our neighbors and friends. It's about our businesses, our welfare, our rights, and our children. What are they hiding? And what are you hiding? We want to know, and therefore we keep digging. I have testified on the hypocrisy of your policies and your actions in the past. I do this to show my fellow citizens just how blatant it is. Well, we have more. Mr. Vincenti, I wasn't sure if Mr. Johnson would inform you that he got caught. Apparently he did. We did obtain evidence that during the height of the scamdemic in July 2020, Mr. Johnson felt that his feet needed to
Mr. Ferrer, I'm
TLC.
going to caution you on your comments before you go too far, so be careful now.
What is it that I'm saying that's too far?
I'm just telling you, don't make it personal. Make your comments whatever they are, and let's move on.
Okay. Same thing, though, I mean, from Mr. Johnson's comments, but I'll keep going. Mr. Johnson felt that his feet needed some TLC and risked the lives of nail technicians and anyone else he would come in contact with, even his family at home. Yes, this is the same person fighting to keep schools closed and depriving our children the education they need and deserve, not to mention that our tax dollars are paying for it. He apparently puts the needs of his feet above all else. And Mr. Johnson, even though our source was shut down, our team was able to see even more information before it got shut down. Most of what we get are from many people that are sent to us. As I mentioned before, so far and throughout this pandemic, you have made one effort to pursue the alternate opinion. Your silence tonight shows you do not represent all of your constituents. Maybe you are scared or incompetent. In either case, you don't deserve nor fit for the position you currently hold. One final statement directed toward Mr. Burby. You stated last week your disgust for those of us fighting
Please
for
bring
your
your
job to
comments to
keep
a
you
close,
employed.
Mr. Ferrer.
You thought you had some tough words.
Thank
So
you.
I asked Mr. Burby, do you know the
Hello,
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Stella Peters, 3713 Federal Lane.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Good evening, council members. While the Harford County BOE was busy devising their plan for virtual hybrid learning, it is evident that they never considered the emotional and social impact this would have on our children. As humans, social interaction is essential to every aspect of our physical and mental health, and this is especially true for developing children and teens. The mental health of our children is just as important as physical health. Poor mental health can have dire consequences. I choose to speak specifically to this issue because on August 16th, a devastating email was sent from the principal of Harvard Tech informing us that a recent 2020 graduate had taken his life. And within a month, yet another student from the 2020 graduating class had done the same. I knew of these young men. My children also knew them well. Learning of the news filled me with an overwhelming sense of sadness. Imagine the pain, depression, torment, and desperation these two young men must have been feeling, that they felt ending their lives was their only option. Hearing of these two heartbreaking stories, admins of both Reopen Harford County and Reopen Harford County Schools felt a sense of urgency to put a plan together focusing on how to get our kids back in school for their emotional well-being. So we met at a local park to discuss what our next strategy would be and how we could focus more on our children and their mental health. Upon arriving, we noticed that the Hartford Tech football team was holding a prayer circle for the most recent student who had taken his life. How ironic that we chose this park on this day, at this time, to coincide with this vigil. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe it was a sign confirming that we were doing the right thing and that we needed to fight for our children and their futures. Throughout our meeting, we felt distracted what we were seeing happening at the time. Young men and women bowing their heads in prayer while others kneeled. It was hard to escape the utter sadness that felt in our hearts ached for them. We wanted to hug them and tell them we were sorry. These were our children's friends. I knew some of them. I cried with them. I watched them play sports and I watched them grow up. I felt their tremendous pain. We
Please
chose
bring your
to
comments
support
to a
them by
close, ma'am.
doing everything we could to prevent anyone from having to go through this type of sorrow.
Thank you, ma'am.
It is important. Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Jill Farrar, 2000 Garden Drive.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tonight, I'm going to tell you about a girl who struggled through school with ADD, and a reading disability that severely impacted her educationally and emotionally. As if these issues weren't enough, at the beginning of her 7th grade year, she was diagnosed with supracortical reflux that had severely damaged her kidneys. Throughout that year, she missed a significant amount of school for the many doctor's appointments, specialty appointments, tests, and hospital stays. Although she thrived her last quarter, it was decided she should be held back that year because of the time missed. This was devastating as she was already lacking self-esteem as well as self-worth, and this was just another blow. It was a tough adjustment, but she fought through and made the best of it. It wasn't until her junior year in high school that the depression really hit her as she watched her friends and classmates enjoying their senior year and moving on while she had to stay back again. No one knew how much she was struggling because she kept her sadness to herself and put on a happy facade to hide her feelings. They especially didn't know she was taking her blood pressure medication. She wasn't taking her blood pressure medication, so she could hide it in the pocket of her out-of-style black blazer hidden in the back of her closet. This was her escape plan for when life just became too much to bear. You see, people who suffer from depression keep everything to themselves because it's embarrassing to admit, and they feel nobody can or will understand. Lucky for her, she formed a new friendship that would change her whole outlook. This friend was fun, funny, cheerful, and positive to be around. This made her look forward to spending their senior year together and all the fun, memorable moments they would experience and in the future. If schools had been closed like they have been this past year, she would have been denied that chance for this person she desperately needed to come into her life. And I wouldn't be here testifying today in an effort to help others that are going through the same feeling of hopelessness I did. See, not only are you depriving kids of an education they rightfully deserve, but you're also denying that life-changing moment that could make all the difference. Whether it be that friend, that game-winning score, the prom, or graduation that made them feel a sense of optimism and accomplishment. I see callous posts telling parents to speak for their own children because theirs are fine, which is ignorant and unempathetic. Basically saying, who cares about you as long as I'm okay? How can you hear the literal cries of parents and be so heartless and dismissive? As for me, I understand how these kids are feeling because I've been through it and I have felt the same desperation they are feeling. But unlike them, I was blessed to have that chance, to have the one thing I needed to help me through it. I will conclude. I will continue to stand with the parents, students, teachers, and community members who put our children's educational and emotional needs first. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello?
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, it's Melissa Hahn, and it's 211 Pilesville Road, Pilesville, Maryland, 21132.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I've been calling every meeting and will continue to do so, hoping and praying that someone will listen, someone will hear, someone will genuinely be as concerned about our children and the struggles they face every single day, the struggles that we as parents are also facing every single day. I can handle all of this. I'm an adult, but our children cannot. This is not on their shoulders. It is not their burden to bear. All along, we were told to follow the science, follow the science. Now that the science says open the schools, the Board of Education wants to make up their own metrics so that they can make their own rules. Today, Harford County's positivity rate is 5.43%. Maryland's is 4.23% and dropping every single day. Governor Hogan said, using this information wasn't necessary anymore, that schools are safe and it's time to get these kids back in school. We have plexiglass partitions. The kids will wear masks and social distance, wash hands and sanitize. What more is needed? What is enough to open our schools so that the kids that need to be in the classroom being taught by a teacher can get back there? Our children are struggling in every single way, mentally, emotionally, physically, and everything in between. They need school teachers, counselors, support staff, socialization to be around other kids, to do conditioning, and to play sports. Every day I look at my children and I see their sadness, their frustration, and their hopelessness. Every day I try to make it better, encourage them, tell them it will be okay, and then they'll be back in school before they know it with a smile on my face. I see the devastation, the lack of motivation, and their excitement of getting back to school slipping away a little more and more every day. I see their once smiling, happy faces full of life and excitement for the days ahead, now sad, angry, frustrated, and nothing to look forward to. Trips taken away, band taken away, sports taken away, their sense of normalcy all taken away. What more can we be taken away for these children? Our children deserve better than this. All over the country, states and counties have been putting children's needs first, opening schools and keeping them open, only closing them as a last resort because they know the importance of school for our children. In-person learning is so important. So many children are not doing well with this virtual platform. They need to get back to in-person school 5 days a week with all extracurricular activities and all sports. I was asked for a picture of my junior for an article at school. And as I scrolled through pictures, I was brought to tears for all of our seniors that have already lost so much. Their last game of football, soccer, or last swim meet, their last marching band parade, and their last senior night. The chance to walk across that field where so many memories were made and say farewell to the coaches and to the team that became their family for the last 4 years. The final banquet in recognition of the hard work, dedication, and countless hours spent practicing. The dances, all the fun things and special times all taken away from these kids, especially walking across that stage, marking the end of a 12-year journey and the rite of passage that every senior graduating deserves, not only for the seniors. All of these kids deserve better. These kids need to get back to in-person 5 days a week with extracurricular activities. The mental repercussions these closures are causing.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Josh Kozel, 1106 Emerald Drive, Bel Air, Maryland.
Thank you, sir. Continue.
Thank you. Good evening, President Vincenti and Council. First, just as last week, true colors shine through, but a bit differently tonight. Last week, some allowed their words to show their true values. This week, actions speak louder than words, and toenails are more important than our children. The hypocrisy of the word leader used last week. Secondly, it is apparent that the HCPS board cannot navigate the educational or health of these events, though that is their job. Also, HCPS does not care to have a discussion. It has been 20 days without a response from a decision maker. I asked the County Board of Health, which includes each council member, to step in and assist with getting our children back to school. This includes all schools and activities without computers in 5 days a week. To this date, nothing has been discussed to achieve this. To quote Dr. Bashai, schools need to open to support public health. Also, he noted, community spread does not happen at schools, so why is the reaction to instantly close them, making children suffer further and in return reduce our overall public health? Dr. Bashai also mentioned that if schools open, it might lead us down a slippery slope and send a message that things are back to normal. Since you are giving your opinion, I will provide mine. I would rather navigate a slippery slope than fall off a cliff like this county has experienced. Council, please do not support closing society further to get our children in school. Lastly, why do I voice my opinion? And most importantly, why does this matter to me? Because the children in our community need more. State and local BOEs are not applying what is needed for our children. Parents know their children best. We are not asking for a babysitter when it comes to public schools, but we are looking to utilize the tool that is the public school system in the growth of our children. Personally, my family will do everything possible to allow our children to grow. And the educational system needs to be an asset, not a roadblock. I say this because I look at my daughter, who is a duplicate of my wife, physically, emotionally, and educationally. I am concerned. My wife, as all of us have, is an angel, a blessing, and the best person I know. My wife has had some of the most horrible hurdles to navigate growing up, but she has prospered and become one of the most smartest, strongest, and admired people that I know. The difficulties that my wife has endured, including the public school system, has helped make her the person that she is today. I see the same struggles in my daughter now due to the forced virtual and hybrid school platforms. I know that my daughter will become the same strong person that my wife is today, and as a parent, that makes me proud. Knowing what was sacrificed for my wife to become the person that she is today, in the roadblocks that are now mountains, our children will fall farther and farther behind. Imagine if the roadblocks created by the school system can be removed. Her ride to becoming smarter, stronger, and an admirable person of society can be greater. Children need so much more to grow, from education to athletics and extracurricular, discipline and accountability, emotional and social skills. I will always be my child's parent, and I will never give up for what they need. I stand with the parents, students, teachers, and community members who put our children first. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Josh.
Hello,
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
it's Kim Novak in Jarrettsville, Maryland.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, gentlemen. As our representatives, we know you don't control reopening our county, but you have the power to influence those who do and the duty to listen. We continue to fight for our kids as they have been the group most adversely affected by these closures. We cannot continue to deny them of school 5 days a week, sports, the library, and to sentence them to remain isolated at home. Keep in mind, virtual learning was only supposed to be temporary. Being chained to a computer all day is not the future for learning. We have lost a year in the classroom and all the experiences that go with it. For those who want to stay home because that's best for you, then you have the right to do so. But you don't have a right to keep the rest of us virtual with no end in sight. That is not giving us the choice. No one here is bashing teachers, but we have a problem with our educational system. And yes, Harford County has been the 24th of 24 counties in teacher pay and per student funding. But this is a problem too large to be fixed right now and shouldn't be an opportunity to be used as a bargaining chip for the union either. The most immediate need is getting children back in school. We can't keep planning to plan or holding up reopening until everyone gets the vaccine. The majority of teachers want to return to the classroom, and it can be done in a safe way. In fact, it's being done right now in the majority of the United States. But for whatever reason, the superintendent, the board, or the teachers union, they are not on the same page, nor are they looking outside their community to see the success other schools have. We hear the plea of safety, but do you believe that Harford County is any more special or unique than those who teach just a few miles away in PA? PA has been in school since August in person with no vaccine. They have similar sized buildings, student population, and it's the same virus. We are one of 4 states that are less than 20% open. We fall behind even in Maryland as other counties are opening, and we can't get past an inequitable plan of only 2 days of in-person learning for some of the students. If we can't come together now, we will never get back to a normal 5-day instruction. To some of us, opening schools seems like a no-brainer when you consider the non-essential places open. Casinos, hair salons, massage parlors, professional sports, big box stores. What essentials are still closed? Schools, libraries, rec leagues, sports, scout groups, and youth organizations. If it's for a child's betterment, it's closed. What will the effects be in years to come for our children versus kids from other states? Will our children look back one day and say, did we fight hard enough? And don't shame those who fight for our children, because we should all be fighting for them. We're all in this together, right? Stop denying them of their rights to go to school. And don't let Harford County be the last to open, because we're surely headed that way. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Lacey Zankwitz, 2046 Knotty Pine Drive, Abingdon, Maryland.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Good evening. I'm calling once again on behalf of the reopening of ACPR Gymnastics in Churchville, Maryland. First, I would like to thank each one of you for listening to the concerns of the parents each week. Last week, my daughter Josie called in to discuss the effects the gym closure is having on her and her teammates. I would like to especially thank Mr. Schroeds and Mr. Johnson for their applauding her. It's very sad to watch the girls struggle each week and be so far behind the other gymnasts in the state. I would like to ask for your support with solidifying a reopening date for the team gymnastics program. We are being told March 1st as a target date, but with no guarantee of whether or not we will actually open that day. There is no reason to have any delay in reopening. At first, it was about the metrics, but according to Maryland.gov, we are at a 4.23% positivity rate. All evidence supports a safe reopening. All surrounding counties are open for indoor and outdoor activities, and not to mention that all spring sports are a go to have a full season. The competitive team at ACPR consists of all girls, so it feels as if these girls and the sport of gymnastics that has such intense demands is being overlooked by the county, while baseball, lacrosse, and soccer, which are primarily boys sports, will have a complete season. Hopefully, I will be able to call into the next meeting with many thanks to all of you for your support of ACPR, and that our girls will once again be practicing in their own gym.
But until then, I please encourage you to speak to Mr. Glassman and Ms. Kathy Burley and to apply pressure to give a firm reopening date of March 1st so these girls can resume normal practice and try to salvage the end of their season. Thank you for your time and continued support.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to call back Ms. Richards.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Angela Richards. I live in Joppa, Maryland, 1900 Atkinson Road.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue.
Okay. Hello. I have a first and third grader at YBES. I'm happy to hear that the elementary students will finally have the option to go to school 2 days a week, but that is not enough. This will be the first time since last March that my first grader will get to go to school 2 days a week. In October, he was able to go to school 1 day a week for 3 weeks. It's been hard to watch my first grader struggle so much and continue to ask when he will be able to go to real school. Back in October, after he was able to go to school a couple times, his reading teacher sent me an email. She told me that he was struggling with using good reading strategies and other things in addition to that. I replied back and asked her what I should do. I told her I knew he would continue to struggle as long as he could only have virtual learning. The teacher said that I could get my son a tutor. I was given the county contact for tutoring. I emailed that person requesting the list and how much it would cost. She replied back to me, I would depend on the person who I contacted from the list. I think my son started seeing his tutor, it was in December, and since then, he's been going about once a week, and this is not cheap. So what I'm concerned about is that the continuity plan sent out by Harper County, the continuity learning plan, it says in there on page 19, there will be academic tutoring. And I'm wondering when will details be sent out? Because there is no, the only details it says is HIC6 offers academic tutoring for students who have been identified as needing additional academic support. That's it, nothing else. And I feel like my son is one of them, and I'm here still paying for it, and no one's told me anything about any like this academic tutoring listed in this program. So that was one of my main reasons for calling tonight. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Richards.
Have a nice night.
I'll have someone reach out to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Singleton. All of that.
Hello?
Good evening, ma'am. It's Council President Vincenti. May I have your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, my name is Alyssa Singleton. I live in Tabitha Grace, Maryland.
Okay, continue.
I'm speaking about reopening ACPI gymnastics. I am 8 years old and have been going to ACPI for about 3 years. I am on the level 3 team, and we compete with other gymnasts across the state. We are the only gymnastics program in the state that is currently closed. We travel to other gyms, and it is stressing on our parents to have to drive us far away. I live with my mom and my 5-year-old brother. My brother can't sit in the car for hours while I practice. My mom has to drive back home and then comes back to pick me up.
Since some of the gyms are far away, I can't go to all the practices. Right before ACPR closed in November, I got 2 more skills I needed for level 4. Since our gym has been closed, I cannot practice those skills at home. I miss being able to see all of my teammates and coaches. I only get to see some of my teammates and coaches on Zoom. Some I don't get to see at all. Please help reopen ACPI gymnastics by March 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Dixon, is there anyone else signed up?
There are no more speakers this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. With no one else signed up to speak, this meeting will be adjourned.